My journey to find authentic self required that my past inform my present. I was a choreographer at the age of 4. My studio was a small apartment on Federal Street where I was raised. My first audience was my family, which included my mother and my aunt, who were twins. I danced to the background music of every commercial that came on TV. So it was decided that I needed to be enrolled in dance so I could perfect my technique and move properly. It was decided the first class I'd take would be tap, and that was because my grandmother, who was Baby Lucille on radio, tap danced. A year into tap, I was so good, Mom decided we're gonna add ballet. I was not excited because I wanted to take interpretive dance, which was a genre of Caribbean moves and West African dance, and it required that I move like this. Mom said, no way will my 4-year-old move her body that way. She is going to be raised as a poised young lady. I had no choice because Mother was paying for the classes. So as I progressed into this wonderful young lady, it also impacted my excellence in English, science, and math, which I was always good in. Mom changed her mind and allowed me to start taking interpretive dance. That resulted in my entering pageants as a competitor. My first pageant was the Miss U.S. Talented Teen pageant, and of course my talent was interpretive dance. But by then, I was doing this more gracefully. I danced to a song by War. Many of you may be familiar with that group, but the song was called Nappy Head. And Mom became a little concerned. However, I managed to win second runner-up, so I did a really good job. I wanted to show people that having coarse hair as an African-American woman was not a bad thing, that it was actually a good thing, and that one could be authentic self and represent something good. That was the whole point. As I graduated from junior high, I went to high school, and I was the pride of my community in Camden, New Jersey. I entered many pageants. The Homecoming Queen pageant, which I won, Miss Junior Miss, which the student body unanimously voted that I should represent the school. I was Miss Congeniality. Can you figure out why? I was also entered into the Miss Black Camden County pageant, and my talent was tap dancing. I won that pageant. I then went on to the state level, to the Miss Black New Jersey pageant, and met Ben Vereen for the first time. I was so excited. Little did I know, and I found out later on when I rejoined him here for the story project, he remembered me after all those years because he thought, wow, she's so talented, she should have auditioned for Pippin. And he was in Pippin during that time. I wish I had known. So I went on to win the pageant. My talent was tap again, and it was a monologue that preceded a soft shoe tap routine. It kind of went like this. My name is Brown, and I'm the baddest around. Better than most folks all over town. Now, you don't have to be good. And that's just a little excerpt. But I won the pageant. This was when I was 18 years of age. I was accepted into Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, immediately after that. And I arrived late. And the person that I first met kind of had an attitude about me arriving late because I had the title and I had commitments. Well, that was Ron Cousar, who I eventually married. And the other counselor said, who does she think she is coming into this program late? Everybody else had to be there on time. He said, she's a beauty queen. Okay? Needless to say, I moved on, declared my major in nutrition and foods, which aligned well with my artistic ability. I graduated. I went to work in the food service industry as a nutrition and wellness coach. Very interesting. I was a coach for senior executives of Blue Cross and Blue Shield who had horrible health. Horrible health. So it was a very interesting job. That led to going into the healthcare industry at Johns Hopkins Hospital. I became the Tower Terrace restaurant manager and an entertainer again because the clientele were ambassadors or their families. It was very difficult. I stayed in that position for a year and then decided I had had enough in the corporate industry. I moved on to the Archdiocese of Maryland. I credit that 3-year experience to my faith-based orientation. It was wonderful. I learned how to care about the elderly. I learned how to turn my gifts into outreach into the community. After 3 years and wanting to stay in that job, my wonderful husband got an opportunity here in Colorado Springs to be the city forester. I came kicking and screaming, no, there's too much snow. By then, we had had a child. She was 2.5, so the family wasn't excited either because she was the first grandchild and we're taking her across the country. Needless to say, we adjusted. And I ended up, after several years in acute care, being invited to be a nutrition and wellness consultant with an at-risk population. I had no idea what that meant at the time, but some of the new responsibilities I took on were a science teacher, Kennedy Center Imagination Celebration facilitator, and I was ushered on to Temple University to learn how to develop curriculum for at-risk youth who had different learning styles. It was one of the best jobs I ever had, even though it was tough. I ventured to Denver to take a West African dance class because I still had the desire in my heart to do this. Okay. I took a Senegalese West African dance class. The dance was called Africa House. Apparently, it was a dance telling the story of slaves on Goree Island and how they were waiting to be taken to America to be sold into slavery. They would go through what they called the door of no return. I get to a point in the dance, and I became emotional. I was angry. I was basically having a meltdown. The Senegalese master said to me, "You move like a Senegalese woman from Senegal, West Africa, and based on your response, you are Senegalese, my sister." I look at him with a deer in the headlight look. What are you talking about? I realized I was having a cathartic moment, glimpses from God. I took the lesson back to the school as a science teacher, and 2 years later, I was promoted to executive director. A local newspaper honored me with an award for excellence in education for being successful with such a tough population. I was handed a packet which had long tip swabs in it from African ancestry. It sat on my desk for 2 weeks because I was suspicious. I got the strength to open it up. And for those of you who have had science classes are probably familiar with the cheek swabbing process. I did it. I inserted it back in the envelope. I mailed it at the post office. 6 weeks later, the results come in. I'm Mende Limba Mandinka. The Mandinka apparently are natives of Senegal, West Africa. I immediately thought back on my experience in the class and said, he was right. How did he know? Wow. I became so excited. I said, what am I going to do with this information? Like most people do. Well, I started getting phone calls from a professor in South Carolina to explain the Mende part. He said, I just wrote an article. Interestingly, my mother had subscribed to a magazine that I was getting that article was in. Another cathartic moment. I read the article. His work was connecting the Gullah of South Carolina to the Mende of Sierra Leone and using a funeral rites song that was in the Mende language that a woman by the name of Thomasina Polite took to the university. It resulted in a video being done called Priscilla's Journey, the language I cry in. When I watched the film and saw her conversing with a Mende chief, she said, why is it that my 7th generation great-grandmother, who was captured at the age of 10, why did she bring a song with her to the United States? The chief's response was, why not? Who a person is the language they cry in. It immediately resonated with me that my experience doing Africa House was the language that I cried in, dance. Maya Angelou had a video of her interview with Henry Louis Gates of Harvard University. I used that video after I refused to go into a doctorate program, but it kept coming before me. It took me 2 years to make up my mind. My work was with a Mende group called the Sunday Society, who are female chieftains, similar to chief advisors in Western culture. These women run secret life skill schools. All of this started to make sense to me, why I was doing what I was doing. It was because my destiny was to become a Sunday chieftain. You see, the secret life skill schools are secret and have been since the 1500s. Mali women came to Sierra Leone and introduced secret societies. They were societies where sacred beings, their gods, gave them the authority to pass on life skills. I was doing exactly that running the charter school. I said, wow, I'm supposed to be here. Basically, I had a dissertation that was completed. I used descendants of the African diaspora as the people I got narratives from, and I interpreted those narratives using a technique called quantum storytelling by Dr. David Bogie of New Mexico State University. It was very effective. I uncovered 16 leadership attributes of Sunday leaders. You see, Sunday women not only chief advise women, but they also are advisors for chiefs. So I included men and women in the study. A book has come out of it. It's called Sunday Leadership: Attributes of Sustainable Practice in Organizations. It's available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And I'm very proud of the effort. Again, it's important to pay attention to those cathartic moments and do things so you can have them interpreted, because one's past informs your presence. Thank you.